I'm Kathryn Buxton, and since discovering the joy of meditation in my late 30s, I've been on a journey of self-discovery that has introduced me to some fascinating ideas. Join me as I take a deeper dive into the areas of our well-being that we just don't give enough attention to. Would our lives really be any better if we took our well-being seriously? Each week I'll be joined by a well-being specialist to unpick the value of sleep, nutrition, kindness and so much more. This is Things You Should Care About podcast in association with Isbourne.org. So welcome to the podcast Things You Should Care About. I'm here today at the Isbourne with the lovely Joanna Kippax, who's from Why Sleep. Thank you very much for coming to see us today, Joanna. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
That's a pleasure. You've come all the way from Hereford, is that
I
right?
have, absolutely right. Yeah.
Good. And Joanna's going to talk to us today all about the importance of good sleep.
I am.
So you've done most of your nursing around Hereford?
Yeah, most of my nursing has been either in the... I've had 14 years as a senior staff nurse on the children's unit in the hospital.
Okay.
And then left to work in the community.
Yeah.
And then I had about 20 years in the community, and then my last 10 years in the NHS was in mental health.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah. And you work with adolescents and children, is that right?
I did.
Parents,
yeah. I was the ADHD nurse specialist
really?
In the child and adolescent mental health team, and that's actually where my interest in sleep first started, because I was seeing all these children coming through with hyperactivity that weren't sleeping, and so I just sort of started to learn a lot more about sleep then. A lot of it is, well, first of all, with ADHD, you've got to make sure that it is actually that condition, because sleep deprivation can mimic ADHD. Unfortunately, an awful lot of children are misdiagnosed with ADHD and do not have the condition, and are actually have a different condition called sleep apnea. Okay. So if they snore really loudly and their focus of concentration is really poor, then think sleep apnea rather than ADHD. So that's where the sort of the two things sort of join in a way. So a lot of the children, it's actually a sleep related problem. And so if you address the sleep first, their behaviour settles down.
Yes.
And this unfortunately is missed.
Right.
So often. And very, very rarely do people do sleep assessments. And so if you're trying to manage a really, really hyperactive kid, actually look at their sleep first. Okay. So often they are just overtired, not able to sleep properly, and getting them back into a sleep routine will settle their behaviour down. So that's often why they're so difficult to manage. But the other reason that they're difficult, and the same with children on the autistic spectrum, is they've got less of the hormone melatonin, and that's your sleep hormone. Yeah. And if you don't have enough sleep hormone, obviously you're not going to be sleepy, and so you find it more difficult to actually get to sleep. And that's what a lot of these children do, is they find it really, really difficult to actually drop off. But it's trying to catch them before they get to that point.
Yes, so I was going to say, what sort of advice would you give to parents, who've got children that find it to sleep?
It's almost the reverse of what you would imagine it to be.
Right.
It's actually trying to identify earlier in the evening when they're starting to sort of get a little bit more sleepy, when they're starting to wind down, and catch them at that point. But it is having a really, really tight program in the evening of winding down. So removing screens, removing toys, just really, really sort of working hard to settle them down. And it's almost like a runway. If you're going to imagine a plane, you need to go along that runway before you can hit sleep. And ADHD children do not do that runway. No, they don't do that runway very well at all, and that's where the work is. It's you can't make anyone go to sleep, but you can support them in really, really winding them down. The other thing as well that gets missed is light in the morning.
Okay.
Exposing anyone, all of us, but especially ADHD children, to morning light, and so it sets their body clock. And especially with the lockdown, what is happening at the moment is that we're not actually going outside that much.
No, right.
And so, you know, we're missing that sort of that light, the light actually setting our body clocks. So yeah, it's so important to get out in the morning light or use a daylight lamp. That's the other bit of things. That's right. Yeah. So if you've got a hyperactive child, you know, get them in a room and just put that really, really bright light wherever you know they're playing, or wherever you know, if they're in front of a screen or whatever, and expose them to that light, and you're much more likely to set their body clock. So yeah. That's and again in schools can use that too.
Oh, what a good idea.
Yeah, schools can use.
And I suppose that would help all children.
It would. It really would. It really would. And actually, even with older people, you know, older people again are really missing out on that light because, especially if they're in nursing homes.
Right.
And this is often why older people don't sleep so well. Is just because they're lacking in exposure to light.
Yeah.
So can make a huge difference.
That's very interesting.
Really huge difference. Yeah.
I was reading somewhere that they don't actually know why we sleep. I thought that was very interesting. Why do we need sleep? And the article said it was something to do with the fact that it's not that we physically, our bodies need it in terms of our muscles or whatever, but it's more the brain needs it to kind of declutter or to kind of reassess and put everything in little compartments of what's happened at the end of the day. Is that your experience?
Yeah. Basically, we cannot survive without sleep.
No. Oh God, I know. If I have just a night where I don't sleep, the next day.
Absolutely.
Horrific.
It's a biological need.
Yeah.
It's a bit like breathing. You are when people sort of say they can't sleep, it's more about reframing is what's stopping you from sleeping.
Oh, okay.
Because you can sleep. Yeah. You will sleep. You have to sleep. You're more likely to die of lack of food than you are of lack of sleep. You know, you'll. It's that way around. Yeah, you'll die quicker with lack of sleep. I'm not sure if I got that right way around then. You'll die sooner that way. And every single cell in our body needs to rest. It needs to sleep.
So it will go into a sleep mode.
It absolutely will.
Crash out.
It absolutely does. And it's the crashing out bit. Actually, it's the micro sleeps bit that when the brain actually flips off that cause road traffic accidents.
Oh, really?
And it's when people actually fall asleep for 5 or 6 seconds or so, and they don't even realise they're doing it. Yeah. That cause those, about 20% of accidents.
Oh,
so it's a biological need, but they don't. Yeah, they don't quite understand. There's so many answers, questions still in sleep. They don't quite understand why it is such a basic sort of need, but it absolutely is. You know, it's one of those. Well, it's the third pillar of health, really.
Really,
it's just so completely fundamental.
And yet we don't. I would suggest that we don't seem to take it seriously enough. I mean, there's almost. When I was in teaching, there was almost a kind of a bravado about,
totally.
I've not slept, but it's all right, I'm getting on, I'm pushing through it.
Absolutely.
I can survive on 5 hours sleep.
Absolutely madness.
Yeah.
Utter madness. Yeah. When you look at the science behind it, you just think, why would you do that? But yeah, it's true. And we've got a very, very odd cultural sort of attitude to sleep, I think, in the sense that we reward children and say, if you're really good, you can stay up late.
Right, yes, you're right, we do.
Why do we do that?
Yes,
exactly. I mean, it's just madness, isn't it? You've done really, really well, you have a really late night, or you can have a sleepover.
Yes,
sleepovers, they are not sleepovers.
Oh, they're not.
Anyone's had a sleepover, they are a wakeover.
No one's sleeping.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you just think, if we switched it the other way around and actually got children to say, if you're really, really good, you can have a really lovely long night's sleep. And adjust our mindsets to thinking that actually sleep is really, really important, and we all feel so much better. Feel so much better, don't you? If you've had a good night's sleep.
I've had a good night's sleep. I'm a different person the next day.
Exactly, you are.
A different person.
Exactly, you are.
But why do we have that attitude that it's somehow, It's not cool to sleep.
It just seems to be something that we feel that we can squeeze out of our lives, I think, doesn't it? It feels as though, I suppose we don't really... It feels like you're not doing anything.
Yeah. Well,
it feels like you're wasting time.
We?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're addicted to that. The whole of our lifestyle is sort of busy, achieve. And actually, we think that we're not actually doing anything. But the more you understand about sleep, the more you realise what is going on in our brains. And our brains are super, super busy in the middle of the night. Actually, that is the time that they are more busy often than they are during the daytime. And there is actually a thought that sleep happens all 24 hours a day.
Really?
And different parts of our brain are resting.
Okay.
When you sort of say, sometimes you'd say to a child, "Oh, you're half asleep," and actually that's true.
They probably are.
They probably are. There's a part of their brain that's actually resting and quiet at that time, and then another part that's more active, and that's going on 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So it's not a sort of a fixed process by any means. It's much more sort of fluctuating than that.
Is there a difference in the sleep in adolescents and children to grown-ups, to adults? Is there a difference in the quality of sleep or the amount of sleep we need?
Yeah. It changes all through the ages, basically, and depending on what sort of developmental stage that individual is. There's a thing called sleep spindles. That's when if you were to look on a sort of the brain waves of somebody when they're sleeping, there's an increase in sleep spindles, which is a time when they're learning, and you get this increase just before they're about to have a burst in their development. When you get a little child and they suddenly start walking or they suddenly start talking, just before there's this burst of really sort of electrical activity in the brain that is just sort of suddenly precedes that development.
Yeah. And that's when they need more sleep, or they take more sleep.
Yeah, that's often when they take more sleep. So they need more sleep. And so they'll sleep more, and then a couple of days later or a month or so later, you suddenly think, oh, they're walking now, or they've how children sort of peak and trough in their development, don't they? They have a little burst. So sometimes that's their sleep is associated with that burst. But all through the ages, sleep is associated with processing information, with memory retention, with emotional regulation.
Okay.
Certainly our dream sleep, our REM sleep, which we get mostly just before we're about to wake up.
Yes.
That is the time that we're doing most of our emotional regulation.
Oh, okay.
And that's why they think that adolescents are slightly more anxious if they're sleep deprived, because they haven't had that time when they can emotionally regulate. We've woken them up basically when they actually should be asleep, which is why the later school start time.
Yes, there's been lots of interesting investigations on that. Some schools have started later, haven't they? Sort of 10 o'clock, 10:30, and they found a massive improvement.
Indeed, and that's for that reason. Yeah. Absolutely right. And indeed, the lockdown is actually helping. So one population of people that really benefiting from more sleep during the lockdown is because they don't have to get up at that certain time of day, I mean, obviously now that the kids are back to school, so but the first lockdown, that they noticed a real improvement in adolescent sleep, because and adolescent mood as well, just purely because of this emotional regulation.
So when you mean emotional regulation, what's the brain doing to emotionally regulate?
It is sort of adjusting all their experiences from the day before, measuring it out, processing to try and getting rid of stuff that information that they don't need. I mean, say for example, we have a memory, but we also have a forgettery.
Oh, okay.
And so that is a sort of when the brain actually forgets certain bits of information. And if I asked you what you had for tea about 3 weeks ago on last Tuesday,
oh yeah, well,
absolutely no
yeah,
idea.
no idea.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another matter, isn't it?
That's my age.
Exactly. Yeah, we're all there. Yeah. But you just wouldn't have any. You wouldn't have any.
You don't need it. The brain
because you don't need it.
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's exactly what the brain does all through. With adolescence.
Yeah.
So that they're processing information that they do need, and letting go of information they don't need. Now, if you deprive an adolescent of sleep, they hold on to that. They won't leave stuff. You just think, oh, forget it, just leave it,
right.
leave it.
So it starts to kind of eat away.
It starts
and
to eat away,
it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and they overthink it because they haven't had that opportunity to forget it.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. Yeah.
So it's this balance of remembering stuff but also being able to forget stuff, and we are depriving our children of that time to just let things go. Yeah.
My sleep started to get poor at about the time when I had my children, because I wasn't sleeping deeply when I had the kids. When you've got a little baby beside you, you're kind of hyper-vigilant, waiting for them to wake up, etc. And then they would wake up every 3 hours or 4 hours for a feed, or I remember once my son slept for something like 5 hours. I didn't sleep for 5 hours. I was awake for 2 hours thinking, is he awake? Is he not awake?
Oh my goodness, what on earth happened to him? He's never done this before. Is you alright?
I feel I've never really recovered from that.
No. That's so common.
That's a relief.
So common. Yeah, basically sleep is like a habit. I mean, you get into that sort of habit because in that point in your life you needed to be alert, and you needed to be sort of quite there's a sense of hyper arousal, isn't there? You need to be on call, basically. And it's very, very difficult to sort of, for some people, to get out of that habit so that you actually switch off and think, actually, I don't need to do that anymore. Actually, this part of my life is finished. But the brain is still hanging on to that. So it's still thinking, you definitely do. You definitely do need to still be awake, And so you get into this habit. And once you're into that habit, then your set of behaviours slightly changes, and it's that set of behaviours there that perpetuate sleep problems. And it's that sort of set of behaviours that you can change that helps you to get back into that sleep. Really, much better sleep. So a lot of people put up with awful sleep for a very, very long time, and you think you just don't need to. You really do not hang on to this any longer. Do something about it. You can get some treatment, work on it, adjust how you do your routine, adjust what you do in your day, because as we said before, sleep is a 24-hour sort of process. So what you do in your day affects what happens at night. You never ever have 2 days the same. Right. So why would you have 2 nights the same?
No, exactly. Yes.
But if you understand how sleep works, it can really, really make a difference to how you approach your relationship with sleep and how you approach sleep. Because I mean, a few bad nights is absolutely completely normal. Completely and utterly normal. Absolutely.
That's relief. Yes.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I haven't slept. Oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
And then once that anxiety is in, the next night they go to bed, they think, oh, I didn't sleep very well. Am I going to sleep now?
Yes.
Oh gosh, here we go. Here we go.
You're absolutely right, because I find sometimes when I go through sort of periods of okay sleep and then periods of poor sleep.
Absolutely.
But when I'm in a period of poor sleep, it's almost like I feel my bed is a battleground.
Totally.
And 100%. I go to bed with a heavy heart.
Absolutely, you
thinking,
do. Of course you
do.
do.
Here we go again.
Exactly.
What's it going to be like?
Exactly. And the minute you enter into that sort of mindset, you're then thinking, oh gosh, I'm never going to go to sleep. And then your adrenaline washes in, your stress hormone, your cortisol increases, and that is actually stopping you from sleeping. And then you don't sleep, and then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy after a little while, and then you start to think, there you go, see, I didn't sleep. Oh gosh, oh no,
and it's going to be like this tonight, it's going to be like this tomorrow night.
Exactly. So it's breaking that cycle and thinking,
Joanna, how do I break the cycle?
Oh, easy.
Give me a tip.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so how do you break the cycle? So this is basically the the root of my work. This is a lot of what I do. I mean, first of all, I do a very detailed sort of assessment, very holistic assessment, looking at all through the day, a whole range of different sort of factors. Then we look at sort of the routine, so you're looking for exercise, how much exercise you're doing, how much exposure to light, because we said it before, light is really, really, really important.
And it's that morning light you were saying.
Morning light, absolutely, that's absolutely crucial. And then you see sometimes what happens when people have had a bad night, they just think, oh gosh, I've had such a bad night, I'm going to take it easy today, because I'm tired. Actually, that's probably the reverse of what you should do.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Because if you think of sleep like a balloon, okay? So you imagine this, you've got your balloon. In the morning when you wake up, your balloon is completely empty. It's completely deflated. All through the day, you're going to blow air. You're going to blow into that balloon, and it's going to get bigger and bigger until by the time you go to sleep, it is absolutely bursting and it's completely fit to pop. Now, if you think of each time you don't do something, as it were, you're not blowing into your balloon. And so your balloon it's all right, but it's a bit flabby. It's a bit, it's not going to pop. So you'll get to sleep, but you won't be able to stay asleep. So the more to build that the balloon is called your sleep drive. So you want to get yourself as tired as you possibly can through the day. So you want to add into your balloon, blow up your balloon all through the day to make yourself really, really, really exhausted.
And what kind of things am I adding into the balloon? Do I need to add into the balloon?
You are going to do stuff like exercise. You're going to do social contact. And this is actually quite interesting. Where through the lockdown, 70% of the population have noticed a change in their sleep pattern.
Haven't they?
And insomnia has gone from 8% to 40%.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So huge
That's a
change.
Huge jump, isn't it?
Huge change. And a lot of this is because of
lack of social contact.
Lack of social contact, not blowing into the balloon. Not having the same activity levels, having a much more sedentary sort of lifestyle, just because we've had to, and basically all of the air out of our balloon has not been there. So so it's just making sure you sort of keep very, very active, you keep interested in life, you keep sort of
hobbies and things like that.
You have a rich, fulfilled life. And you enjoy it, and you're sort of happy, and that will fill up your balloon. So by the time you filled up your balloon, you want it to be absolutely bursting. So you only go to bed when you are sleepy. You don't go to bed and you don't look at the clock and think, oh gosh, it's 10 o'clock now, I think I need to go to sleep. That is a complete misnomer. It's if you're sleepy, that is when your balloon is ready to pop. So if you're going to bed at 10 o'clock, your balloon might still need a couple of hours of filling up, and so you only go to bed when you're sleepy. The other sort of absolute key thing with sleep is waking up at the same time every single morning, because you are going to set your body clock. You've set that time to fill up your balloon. If you lie in, and this is the other thing.
I used to love a lie in. Still do occasionally.
Basically, what you're doing by having a lie-in, as lovely as it is, and I apologise to your listeners because they are going to hate me forever. A lie-in is probably about the worst thing you can do for your sleep. It really is.
So it's getting to a rhythm, I suppose.
It is,
and sustaining it.
It is. It's getting into a rhythm because you have just allowed yourself less time to blow into your balloon. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And is it the quality of what you blow into that balloon? Is that important, or is it just keeping busy and keeping going?
But if you do lots of sort of exercise and activity, you are going to be physically tired. Because the other thing is your body will sleep when it needs to sleep. And if it doesn't need to sleep because you haven't done anything, and this is where the quiet day falls down.
It's counterproductive, isn't it?
It's completely counterproductive, because it doesn't. You don't actually need to sleep, because your body is only going to sort of replenish stuff that needs replenishing, and nothing more than that. So by doing lots of exercise, doing lots of lovely walks and runs and all of that sort of stuff, that is you do actually need to sleep then, don't you?
Yes, because you feel tired.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, I must admit, I am a great lover of little naps.
Are you?
Yes, I'm a bit of a nap lover in the afternoons. Not every day, but just occasionally, around about maybe 2-3 o'clock or something. I will just have a sit down and have what my dad used to call it Winston Churchill.
Indeed.
Which is
lose a few moments
and just sit in the chair and sort of close the eyes a little bit.
Okay.
What do you think about naps?
Okay, right. So if
I've got a feeling that you're not going to be very keen on them.
What makes you think that? I don't know.
The way you're looking at me.
So come back to our analogy of our balloon.
Yeah. I deflated the balloon a bit, won't I?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much like eating a donut just before you're about to sit down and have a big meal.
Yeah.
You've ruined your sleep appetite at that point.
Yeah.
Now, if you have difficulty sleeping, again, so much of sleep is completely upside down. You would think if you had difficulty sleeping, it would be great to sleep in the day. It's actually the reverse. If you have difficulty sleeping, you want to build your sleep drive as high as you possibly can to stay asleep all night.
Yeah, right.
If you don't have difficulty sleeping and you can sleep all day or sleep all night, then having a nap for about 20 minutes before 3 o'clock would boost your concentration by about 30%.
All right. Okay.
So for some people, it's absolutely fab.
Yeah.
So for some people, if you want to just have a little power nap, you have a cup of coffee or a cup of caffeine just before you have a sleep. That takes 15 to 20 minutes to get into your system. Okay. Have a snooze immediately after you've had your cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And that literally will give you an absolute blast of a power nap. Then if that doesn't interrupt your sleep at night, then absolutely great on you. That's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But if it interrupts if you're a poor sleeper, it's basically like having a donut just before you.
Right.
So if you want to nap, you can nap for a short amount of time. If you go into a sort of a full sleep cycle, which is between 90 minutes to sort of 2 hours, then you are going to really take a chunk out of your night's sleep. And you are also likely to wake up feeling pretty groggy and pretty awful. Yeah. If you have a real power nap, a short sleep, you're not going to head into that real deep sort of sleep, and you actually wake up feeling refreshed and you wake up feeling better. Now, if there is a sort of a situation where you can get excessive daytime tiredness, so that means you cannot stay awake, you cannot manage throughout the day without your sleep. Now, that is worth looking into from a medical point of view, because it may be a sign of sleep apnea. So obstructive sleep apnea is an extremely common condition. It's more common than asthma, but majority of people don't even realise they've got it. And the symptoms of that are excessive snoring. So if you snore really loudly, you have real struggles with daytime tiredness. You really, really can't stay awake during the day. You wake up with a headache in the morning. You have heartburn. Your blood pressure's a bit high. And it's a culmination of sort of symptoms. You also get a dry mouth when you wake up. Now, what happens when you get obstructive sleep apnea is, if you're lying on your back, your airway occludes, and so your airway blocks off. So your oxygen levels dip. You actually stop breathing for a certain number of seconds. Your brain flips the switch and goes, "Oi, come on, wake up!" And you go, here, absolutely. So you sort of suddenly wake up, and that's the only thing that you might actually even be aware of. And you suddenly wake up and think, "Oh gosh, I keep waking up. Why do I keep waking up?" and then you fall back to sleep again, and the same thing.
Same cycle goes on. Yeah.
So a lot of people who come with insomnia thinking that they can't sleep actually haven't got insomnia at all.
It's sleep apnea.
They've got sleep apnea. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a medical thing that you go to the doctors for.
It is.
And
it is.
Out with something.
It is. Yeah. And the difference to sort of pick up is somebody with insomnia is tired but wired.
Oh, right.
And so they can't sleep during the day. They are actually buzzing, you know. And but somebody with obstructive sleep apnea does feel sleepy during the day. Okay. So that's something to sort of watch out for.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, certainly, if you sleep well during the night, having a daytime nap. So, you know, companies like Google, Facebook, all the big companies are really encouraging their staff to have these naps because it makes you more creative, makes you more productive.
Yeah, they can
gives
make
you
more money.
Absolutely, they can make more money. Not that they need to make any more money, but there we are, they do. Yeah. And but yeah, they have understood that sleep is actually really, really important for productivity, and it is. It really is. And so it's so important for all businesses, all companies, everyone to just really sort of monitor how tired their staff are, support them with that. Not that it's a punitive thing, not that employees are going to sort of get into trouble if they come to work tired, because at the end of the day, poor sleep, as we said, is part of it is normal. But it's just knowing when you're safe to work and when you're not.
Right. Okay.
And there's so much that employees can actually do to help. Absolutely, facilitate breaks.
Is poor sleeping a kind of a modern day phenomena? Have we always been poor sleepers? I mean, I read somewhere or I heard about this idea that you had two sleeps.
Indeed, absolutely right.
4 hours, and then
absolutely
you woke
right.
up, and then that was when you read or you did your sort of praying or religious things.
Absolutely.
And then another 4 hours. Is that?
That's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, that's called a biphasic sleep pattern.
Oh, right.
And that's a medieval sort of.
That's right.
Sort of thing that people they'd go to sleep, they'd wake up in the middle of the night, they'd get up, they'd stoke the fire, they'd do a few jobs, you know, and then they'd pop back to bed later on. And they have two sleeps.
2 sleeps,
Yeah. Now, some people still like to do that. I've had clients who just think, actually, that really suits me. Actually, I want to do, you know, especially with older people.
Yeah.
And they do exactly that. They you know, go to bed. And then they get up and do a few jobs and then pop back to bed later on, and that's absolutely fine.
Suits them. Yeah.
It's that works for them.
And I guess the key is they're not tired during the day.
Exactly.
So they know it's okay. For
exactly.
Them. Yeah.
But since the introduction of light, you know, of electric light, that has completely shot our sleep.
Oh, right, sleep system there, yeah.
You know, now we are of the opinion that we have to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep in one stretch. And, you know, this idea that 7 to 8 hours is you have to get it, otherwise, you know, something awful is going to happen to your health, is a complete and utter myth.
Okay.
Only because everybody's sleep need varies.
Right.
So you might need 8 hours. I might need 6 hours. Absolutely fine. What, you know, nobody can tell you what your sleep need is.
No.
And the only way that you know whether you're getting enough sleep is whether in the morning when you wake without an alarm clock, you feel refreshed. That is a sign that you've got enough sleep. If you're dragging yourself out of bed every morning and you know you're one of these people that hits the snooze button repeatedly and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is awful, I just feel so tired, you are not getting enough sleep. And so it's finding the right sleep need for you. So all this idea that, you know, you must have 7 to 8 hours, otherwise something awful is going to happen, is just not true.
Yeah.
It's just, don't believe it.
That's interesting, because I notice sometimes I will have, you know, on the clock 8 hours sleep. Yeah. But I wake up, I don't feel like my quality of sleep has been good. Indeed, absolutely. And it comes back to your daytime activity. So just as your day is different, every day is different, so is your night going to be every different. Right. You know, okay. So you may have had a particularly physically active day, in which case the quality of your sleep is likely to be better.
You may have, at the weekend, maybe you haven't had such an active day.
No.
You've just sort of sat around and not done so much. Then the quality of your sleep, you don't need that deep sleep, you know?
Right, okay.
So,
So busy.
Yeah. So you may not sleep so well
No.
if you're stressed as well.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, or anxious, or, you know, at the beginning of the lockdown, my wordy, you know, we were all completely up in the air, weren't we?
We were.
None of us slept as well. That is completely and utterly normal. And to sort of, you know, I think it's so important to sort of normalise sleep, you know, and not think, oh my goodness, oh gosh, I haven't slept so well tonight. Okay, you're fine. You know, you'll be fine. If you have a very, very chilled, relaxed, you think, oh, I haven't had a very good night, I'm going to sleep much better tomorrow night.
Yes.
Because, you know...
It's actually, it's what your mind tells you about your lack of sleep, but actually it makes it worse than the actual... 100%. The lack of sleep itself.
100%. And so it's one of these upside down things. If you haven't had a good night, the chances of you sleeping better the next night are actually greater because you've got more time to blow up that balloon. You know, you are more tired. But your brain tells you, oh my goodness, I didn't sleep well last night. I'm not going to sleep well again this night. And that's where the problems start to sort of kick in. So sleep is pretty much upside down in lots and lots of respects. It really is. Well, I always find that if I have a warm bath before I go to bed. Now, I'm a woman of a certain age, so I do get quite hot in bed. But I still find that a warm bath absolutely right
gets me off to sleep well.
It really does. And that is one of the top tips, actually.
Is it?
It really is. A warm bath works in the way that you are actually cooling your core body temperature. Because once you get out of your warm bath, the heat from the core of your body comes out to your skin to radiate out, because you're losing heat from your skin, and so you're actually lowering your core body temperature. Now, you need to lower your core body temperature to sleep. That is a trigger for sleep. And actually, in the opposite way, if you increase your body temperature, so you imagine sleeping in a heat wave, we don't sleep so well.
Don't sleep so well
exactly,
no.
Because for that very reason, you know, you are just your body's telling you it's daytime, so it's time to wake up. So temperature is a really, really important thing. And again, this business of the menopause with hot flushes, joy of joys. Been there, done that. Basically, with hot flushes, there is, strangely enough, our actual temperature doesn't change. But it's what they think actually is happening, and it's a little bit of a convoluted thing here, is that you have a hot flush, you wake up in, obviously, just because you know you're hot, absolutely.
Sweating,
You then have a racing mind because you're just thinking, oh my goodness, I just feel so uncomfortable. And that racing mind actually generates more heat. And the reason for that is because your heart is going faster. You're more likely to physically moving your arms and legs around the bed, just because you're just so hot and uncomfortable. You're just thinking, oh, get me out, you know. And so your motor movements are increasing, and that's actually generating more heat. And it's that movement and that racing mind that is actually then stopping you from sleeping. And so if you can then really calm your racing mind and actively work to do the opposite, so you're trying to lie still, you know, you're trying to really keep calm, you're trying to, you know, do all your mindfulness, your meditation. Swear meditation in the middle of the night. It really, really does. It is absolutely key in the middle of the night, is to be thinking about calming your mind. Then your core body temperature lowers, and then you will get back to sleep.
Oh, right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes. It's often... It's like a lot of things, isn't it, in life? It's not the actual thing that's happening that is the problem.
100%.
It's our perception of what's happening and our thoughts and our mind building it up and making it into something much bigger than actually it is.
Absolutely, 100%. That's exactly what it is.
That's really interesting, because that idea permeates through so much of what we do in life, whether
Indeed.
it's sleep or whether it's
Absolutely.
how we cope with challenges in our life, how we cope with
Indeed.
lockdown, etc. It's more our thoughts about what's happening
100%.
than what is actually happening.
Exactly. And because all the evidence, all the research that is done on sleep and menopausal ladies almost comes to nothing. They just they just get nowhere.
Circles,
exactly.
Yeah.
They just get nowhere with it.
Yeah.
But this business of temperature regulation, in a study a while ago, every single person with insomnia had a raised body temperature. Every single person.
Yeah.
Now, it's the body temperature side of things that is causing the insomnia, not the menopause.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So, but certainly from the work that you're doing, here at the Isbourne Centre, I mean, it's so closely interlinked because you can have control over that, and I think that is hugely empowering for people to just think, okay, so this is what's causing me to be awake. This is what's causing my insomnia. I have got control over this, and then you get out all your tools. You get out your meditation. You get out your mindfulness. Absolutely, your yoga, and and actually you're focusing on that rather than focusing on sleep.
Right. Okay.
Because the minute you focus on sleep and I can't get to sleep, you're finished.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been there, done that.
Exactly.
I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. How's it going to be tomorrow? Oh no, here we go.
You just build up the whole thing about
Absolutely.
how you go to sleep.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying is your thoughts can control your body temperature. Is that what you're saying?
It really, really can.
Amazing.
And there is a new piece of equipment actually that's just coming over from America that has got a headband that has a cooling mechanism in it that cools the frontal cortex of your brain purely to lower your core body temperature in the basis that you are then going to be able to get to sleep. Absolutely. So I've got one of these and I'm trialing it at the moment. If anybody's interested, then they can contact me because they can join in. But it is a really, really interesting sort of piece of evidence, and it is very, very evidence based because it is every single person that has got insomnia has got a raised body temperature.
Okay.
And so, there must be some element
a link
in there.
Isn't there? Yes.
And your hot bath is really, really helping your core body temperature to cool down. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's an enormous factor on sleep. So, but it's a bizarre thought, isn't it? To think that your thoughts can control your body temperature.
I think that's fascinating.
Isn't it?
That is amazing. Do you sleep well, Joanna?
I do.
Do you?
I don't every night.
Right, okay.
And certainly
you're okay about that?
Absolutely fine about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine about that. And certainly heading through the menopause, I have had some pretty rocky times when I've just thought I'm really, really not sleeping at all well. But you just think, okay, I'm going to sleep so much better tomorrow night. I really am, and actually I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night. Yeah. And so you get into bed the next night thinking, here we go.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to turn it on its head and just think, I am going to be absolutely fine. Yeah, I might be a bit sleepy. Yeah, I might not make the best decisions. But I am going to be fine. I know I'm going to be fine. And trying to sort of actually remove that element of sort of fear and anxiety about how you are going to perform the next day, because you do, don't you? Somehow,
yes, you do. I know. You get through it.
You get through it. And even if you've you make a bit of a mistake or you've had a bit of a bad day, you just say, sorry guys, had a really bad night, and everyone goes, oh fine, okay. There is no great shakes about it. And so as soon as you can actually take out the fuel of that fire,
makes a big difference.
It makes an enormous difference.
I mean, I when I was teaching, there were some days I used to find teaching quite stressful, and I would have issues with my sleep.
Absolutely.
And I would sometimes have 2 or 3 days where I didn't sleep well and be dreading going into school.
Of course.
But I always got through it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the kids didn't come up to at the end of the day and say, "Oh God, that was awful, Mrs. Buxton. It was just a dreadful day at work." But
and you get through it.
Yeah,
it's a bad day.
And one of the best bit of advice I ever got was, your best is good enough. Trying your best is good enough. You don't have to be perfect.
You do not have to be perfect all of the time. Absolutely. And actually winding down in the evening, again, preparing your runway, you know. If you have a really hellishly awful day and you're sat in bed looking at your emails with a, you know, getting yourself or your social media or whatever, getting more and more stressed out, and then you expect to go to sleep,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
No.
It is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really being careful and mindful about thinking about your evening, and just think, okay, I am just going to really look after myself. I'm just going to have a lovely bath. I'm going to dim the lights. I'm just going to, you know, prepare myself, because my body needs this, you know?
Yeah. It's a gift that you're giving yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. You need it. You know that you're going to perform better the next day. You know, work will wait, whatever is going on.
So I've got one last question for you, Joanna.
Certainly.
And it doesn't have to be a sleep-related thing.
Right.
I'm going to ask this to everybody that comes and has a chat with me. But one piece of advice has someone given you that you'd like to pass on to the people that are listening to this? One piece of advice that's really helped you in your life you'd like to pass on. It could be sleep-related if you wanted it to be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Actually, I was originally going to do a sleep.
Okay.
But actually, I'm going to change my mind.
You
because
can give me two if you like.
Yeah. Well, first of all, is prioritise your sleep, because sleep is just. We haven't even touched on how amazingly important it is for your physical health, but also for your mental health. But I think my other piece of advice is, you know, go with your gut feelings on things.
Okay.
Go with your gut feelings, and you are good enough. You know, you are, as a person, whatever gifts you have been given, they are the best for you. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. You are different. I mean, just look at all the leaves on the trees. You will never pick up two leaves that are the same. And yet we all need to be different. We need to be different and celebrate being different. Absolutely. Rejoice in who you are and not.
Joanna, that's lovely. That's a lovely thing to end our chat with. Thank you so much for coming in to see us today. Anything that you're up to recently that we need to hear about?
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for inviting me to
That's
come.
a pleasure.
I really enjoyed chatting to you anyway. We are hosting our sleep retreats.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yes, we've got sleep retreats coming up in January, the end of January, at the Tudor Farmhouse Hotel in the Forest of Dean. And that is a weekend away where the whole treatment of insomnia will be condensed into one weekend and combined with yoga. So we're really looking forward to that. But in the meantime, clients can find me at ysleep.co.uk, and I do individual sessions or group sessions for the workplace, whatever.